1. When talking to trainees at my property, I regularly tell them that the most stressful or ridiculous nonsense will happen to them in their first 2 weeks. If they can handle that and stick around, they will be able to handle anything this, relatively tame, property throws at them from then on. This happened just over 10 ago. So I'd been working night audit for about a week and a half, including my single night of supervised training, and was finally shaking off the "oh god, kill me's" that strike you around 4 a.m. the first week or two of changing over to a third shift schedule. I don't recall what kind of night it was, busy, so didn't really matter at that point. But what I do recall is that about 15 minutes before my shift ended, a guest stormed up to the desk from the side hallway that led to our restaurant and slammed their hands on the counter. He was red in the face and clearly somewhere between furious and panicked. And I was too after he spoke up. "Someone stole my car!" I had no idea how to even begin to handle that at the time. I stammered out some variation of, "Oh my god, really? I'm so sorry." I started scrambling to try and get my general manager's number pulled up so I could call them and apologizing again and again. They ranted and went on about how bullshit this was and that he parked it right there in front of the restaurant, and how could this kind of thing happen here? While it was ringing, I suggested the guest call the police to file an official report, and he pulled out his phone and stormed off. My GM agreed that he needed to do that, assured me that they would be in momentarily, and asked me to get the guest information when they came back. I mildly panicked and wondered if I should have been watching cameras closer, or if this had happened inside of my front window right by the desk, or a million little anxieties. Cops showed up, GM showed up, guests came back in all thunder and fury. I was there about 45 minutes past my shift when an officer walked back inside and asked the guest if it was an insert car description here. They'd located it all right. Guys, the dude wasn't even a guest at our property. It had somehow slipped my mind to get the guest info first time I dealt with him, and by the time the GM thought to do so, the cops were already on it. He lived in the neighborhood right behind our hotel, and had been hiding his car by parking it with us to keep it from getting repossessed for lack of payment. That did not work. His only response when he was told this by the cops was, "Oh, okay." He then turned and walked out the door, and I never saw him again. The cop passed the story on to our manager, and I clocked out and went home. I was suddenly very tired. So yeah, since then, minus a few incidents to build up that cynical night audit thick skin, not much has really been able to top that morning of sheer panic and absolute anticlimax. 2. I worked at a nightmare hotel. I won't get into too much depth of what a disaster the place is, but all you gotta know is that it's a very old hotel in Daytona Beach. As most of you likely know, Daytona is a hotspot for spring breakers. It's actually astounding how low their standards are for quality hotel rooms, because my hotel was very bad. I guess they don't care as long as it's a place to party and have sex. Anyway, after weeks of these spring breakers making a bigger mess of our hotel than it already was, I was so ready for spring break to finally be over. Then it happened. The alarm started sounding hotel-wide. I read on my control panel, something basement flood. And I was confused, but I radioed maintenance. Maintenance told us this was a false alarm, so we conveyed that information to everybody who was rushing down the stairs, thinking the hotel is on fire. Yeah, it wasn't a false alarm. Someone told us their floor is flooding. I think it was the 4th or 6th. I quickly radioed maintenance, and apparently a sprinkler system was shooting water like crazy, flooding the entire floor. After the water got shut off, we at the front desk were in a big pickle. All the rooms in that floor were ruined and unusable. Not only was the hotel full, all of Daytona was full. I got chewed out like I'd never been chewed out before that night. I just had nowhere to put them. All I could do was apologize and give people their money back, so they could find a place to sleep some way, somehow. I remember this old French lady and her husband who refused to leave the desk until somehow I pulled a room out of my arse to move them into. I kept saying, "I have no rooms," and they kept saying, "That's not my problem." At the end of the day, I met the room who that sprinkler system belonged to. They say that they saw their sprinkler system burst on its own, and black moldy water shoot out of it initially. I was inclined to believe them because this entire hotel is old and rotten. However, maintenance was adamant that this is impossible, and the guests must have broken it. Regardless, our GM put a hold on the credit card for a few $1,000s to charge them for the damages. It was a Hispanic family, and me being the only Spanish speaker in the hotel had to be the one to explain that hold. They were furious, but I tried to remain neutral as they told me how they were going to sue us. I felt terrible. I felt drained. The next day, I kindly told my manager I am leaving this job, and I'm glad I did. 3. At God knows what time on a ridiculously busy night, and all of the stoners have been put on the second floor. I am paranoid from the contact high of the tunnel of Bud. I just happened to be security walking back and forth until I got lost and started wondering when the hallway ends. By the time I get back downstairs, it's 4 a.m., and I'm ready for a peaceful end to the night. Bro, what the hell? At the door. They're guests of a guest and left after drunkenly attacking our water fountain. Now the poor dear is stuck on, and they're long gone at this point. I try to tap the panel to get it to shut off. More water starts coming out. Tried from the side, even more water. Stop doing anything at all, and the pressure plate starts popping back out. More water. At this point, my accidental contact high is kicking in, and I start going into commando mode as water starts popping all over the floor. What proceeds is a 5-minute scrambling and sliding across the water to the phone to put a credit card dispute on hold. Slide my shoes to the back and find wet floor signs, and shoe swim my way to the fountain while texting my boss. I calmly take care of the credit card dispute before sliding back into action. This time I'm equipped with a giant ice serving bucket, every towel, and a screwdriver. Game time. The beast, hurt and frightened, gave its best defense. The water is now torrenting over the front panel as well as backsplashing. I'm talking Coahw River Rapids here, people. Ain't no will get wet, may get soaked here. My ass is getting down and dirty. Knees in cold water, water bucket and towels have done what they can. Brave soldiers. By their courage, I am able to unscrew the panel and avoid major soakage. Now at this point, I have no idea what I've been trying to accomplish, as they're just wires and pumps and metal. I tap into my multidimensional state and actually project my vision through the pips to see the valve. It's reachable, but only by stretched out fingers, and I'm going to have to reset my fingers each turn. Remember, torrent of water coming down the front of this bitch. So yeah, I'm holding my breath and taking straight money shot all the way, while painstakingly maneuvering my fingers to turn the valve, having to reset, and try again to even have any small gain. Finally, after an eternity with soaked hair, bruised fingers, and complete exhaustion, I emerged from the fray victorious. The towels and bucket just stared knowingly at me as I slumped into the water against a wall, staring at my defeated foe, sympathizing for our beloved creature who didn't deserve this cruel state. Tears of joy and stress mixed with the cold, clear fountain water as I carried out the last 30 minutes of my shift, squeegeeing and mopping, all the while wearing the squish, squish as a badge of honor. 4. PSA for non-hospitality employees. Dear guests, potential, former or otherwise, in case it has escaped your notice the last 9 months, we are, in fact, in the midst of a global pandemic. So I have several things for everyone to think about. 1. When you are coming into my lobby, no matter where you are from, you are coming into my office. This is my workspace, and sometimes, for a lot of us, our lunchroom as well. You not wearing a mask is not just a public health hazard, it is also extremely disrespectful. Imagine us coming into your office or cubicle and licking everything. How would you feel? This is not a political issue. This is a health issue. It is not limited to Democrats or Republicans. It is nonpartisan and bipartisan. 2. For at least the front desk, it is literally our job to enforce policies, blending our management team policies with the management companies, with corporate. We aren't consulted on the policies first, and we have almost no power to actually change it. Coming to bitch about having to wear a mask isn't going to change our minds. In fact, we are more likely to strictly enforce policies because we're almost to a fault exactly that petty. 3. Encourage your kids to wear their masks. The more they see you doing it, the more likely they are to, I don't know, actually listen when the desk agent tells them things for their safety. 4. Most of us are labeled essential employees in essential industries. A lot of us have been working off and on all pandemic, fearing for our families and loved ones, isolating ourselves in the extreme. Not for our benefit, but for your safety. We are mentally and emotionally exhausted trying to navigate this, and figuring out how to guide our families through this while we figure out how to, sometimes, not so politely, tell guests they cannot have free reign of the properties. 5. Most importantly, we are people too. We have our own mental illnesses. We have our own families and worries and anxieties, dreams, goals, passions. And one of those passions, for better or worse, is the desire to serve the public. We don't set out to become jaded, but every single complaint about mundane bullshit issues wears us thinner and thinner until we need regular visits from Buttercup. Thank you, Squirreltail, for bringing her by. I don't hate my job, but I start dreading going into work. I don't hate my coworkers, but I spend a solid hour every day in tears dreading the guests. Have some kindness to the hopefully masked FDA or hospitality employee you see. Sometimes the bar is so low for cool guests that something as simple as wearing a mask and joking with the FDA is enough to make their day. Sometimes, that's all we need. 5. Well, it's been brewing for a while now, and things are finally coming to a head. My hotel is more than likely going to end up going belly up before the end of the year. I originally was brought over to this hotel from an older, not as nice hotel by my manager at the time, who was a valuable asset to the subcontractor company that owned various hotels throughout the region. He was always very cheerful, optimistic, caring, honestly like a father that I wish I had. He had a very friendly management style and was willing to give his employees the benefit of the doubt more often than not, sometimes to a fault, unfortunately enough. Around a year ago, he ended up leaving the owners to work at a different hotel. He didn't give me many details, just that he was fed up and needed a change, because his bosses were insufferable. Now, one thing to keep in mind about my GM's boss, the regional manager, is that she has the ability to be extremely kind in a pinch, but being around her long enough and being able to observe her facial reactions, and not just listening to her voice, you can eventually tell it's all forced and that she's putting on an act. Anything she does extra for the team is always something that seems nice on the surface, but in reality feels shallow and obligatory. She hosts the famous pizza and Olive Garden catering parties around Christmas time each year, and we all know it's only for routine and that she has no genuine desire to be here. Once this RM of mine had to take over for a bit, she eventually hired someone who had prior hotel management experience in my state's capital, It's nothing classy, believe me, and initially I was optimistic. My first GM, who I had great respect for, unfortunately, had a knack for occasionally sweeping things under the rug. This was something that was slightly annoying to me at times, and I wanted to focus on positives with this new GM. At first, everything was great. It took a bit for her to learn the system, myself needing to pitch in teaching multiple times, and she was open and fair to everyone, saying her door would be open at any time. Fast forward to today. All the core workers I had at the front desk all ended up leaving within the first few months of this GM being here. She hired some competent people afterwards, but trusted the wrong kind of people. Almost everyone had some kind of drug addiction problem or were unreliable with not having rides to work. Her right hand, who was our sales manager at the time, ended up sneaking into rooms with our relief night auditor and bumped uglies and smoked meth. We have yet to have a fully staffed department since the people she hired always had problems with them at some point. Now, part of me wants to think that it's the owners that are screwing us this way, due to them not allowing starting pay above $8.50 an hour. And throughout this pandemic, this point has slowly been making more and more sense. Thank you to everyone who took the time to describe your protective boxes that were installed. Otherwise, I would never have known that our owners cared enough about our safety to contribute ass-hair thin plastic sheets to hang up from our ceiling tiles. Thank you also for describing how your dining areas have been cut off or greatly limited in occupancy for people's safety. Otherwise, I would have never known that us filling our dining room with all new furniture that totally isn't socially distanced wasn't good. I should also mention that cuts to expenditures were made left and right, and for good reason given the fact that our hotel was on life support in the initial stages of the pandemic. No overtime has been allowed, water bottles are no longer handed out to guests at breakfast, and no team meetings were allowed either. Focus on that last one. No team meetings. No managers getting everyone together to thank us for our hard work during these trying times, and putting our own physical well-being on the line so we could keep this hotel staffed. No messages, no memos, nothing even said to us directly while this is all going on. I understand that everyone has been going through a tough time, but at least acknowledge that we could have died to a virus that we knew nothing about while working for basically peanuts. To top it all off, many of the Hispanic housekeepers have been talking about leaving, and as of me posting this, we are down to 3 housekeepers and 2 managers. Anytime they came in and the GM door was open, nothing to them. Leftover breakfast food in the morning that they used to be able to go up and get like everyone else that worked here, they're barred from going in and getting food that will be thrown out 30 minutes later. Coming up from the front desk to check to see what rooms have checked out? Nope. They'll let you know when you're going to work. These ladies are some of the nicest, hardest working ladies I have ever had the pleasure of working with, and learning Spanish with them so I could communicate better with them was always a great moment that I treasured with all of them. These ladies who have had to clean some of the most unholy messes left by guests have finally had enough. And if one of these powerful women have lost the willpower to make things work here, then that's basically it. The moment that spurred me to write this post happened about half an hour ago now. My favorite lady, also one of the employees that was brought over to this one, and the best cooker of fajitas, called in and regretfully told me, "Me no come in tomorrow, the hotel has muchos problems, muy malo." Sí, yo comprendo. I texted the GM about the next housekeeper to leave. What do I get in response? Okay. Either her spirit is just as broken as everyone else, or she is actually prejudiced against these ladies. The only ray of light I have now is that my application for a new dispensary in my city got accepted, and I have a Zoom interview on the 21st. Here's hoping I get this new job, and hopefully a better outlook on life. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Coahw, number 47. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. I hope the author of the last story there, as I'm recording this, it's actually Monday the 21st, quite early in the morning, but that's how I like to record, it's quieter then. As I'm recording this, they will in fact have that Zoom interview that day, I believe. I hope it goes well, and I hope they get the job. Because they should not have to go down with that ship. Especially not when they came to work there in good faith. When's this go up? This goes up on Tuesday, yes. Big thanks to everybody who joined me on Saturday for my birthday stream. We had quite a chilled time, actually. Yes, I was just playing Sherlock Holmes and drinking tea for most of it. Tea seems more appropriate while playing Sherlock Holmes than anything else, to be honest with you. I have comforting days of eating donuts, sipping tea, and cold winter days and playing Sherlock Holmes while snuggled up on the sofa. During a more stressful time in my life, those moments were very important to me, so it was nice to kind of recapture a little bit of that. Even though I'm thankfully not as stressed as I was then. Also, much appreciated to everyone who made donations during the stream. I will put them to good use, I assure you. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.